The Meridian moved through space like a ghost. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the dark planet grow larger on the screen. New Haven should have been bright with city lights. Instead, it looked dead. "Sir, we're getting close," said Lieutenant Amy Clark from her station. Her voice was quiet. Everyone on the bridge felt scared, but they tried not to show it. Jake nodded. "Take us into orbit, careful and slow." Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her computer. She was the ship's science officer, and she had been studying the planet for hours. "Captain, I'm not reading any life signs, none at all." Her hands shook a little as she spoke. Commander Ryan Bell walked over to Jake. Ryan was the military expert on the ship. He had fought in 3 wars before this mission. "Sir, this doesn't look right. 2 million people don't just disappear." Jake knew Ryan was right. New Haven had been one of humanity's biggest colonies. Families had lived there for 20 years. They had schools, hospitals, farms. Children had been born there who had never seen Earth. Now the planet was silent. "Take us down to the main city," Jake ordered, "but keep the shields up." The ship dropped through the atmosphere. The crew watched the screens as they flew over what used to be New Geneva, the colony's capital. The buildings were still standing, but something was wrong. There were no cars moving on the roads, no lights in the windows, no people walking in the streets. "Landing pad 7 looks clear," said Amy. She was trying to keep her voice steady, but Jake could hear the fear. They landed with a soft bump. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These were good people. They had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be dangerous. Now, they were about to learn something that would change them forever. "Lisa, Ryan, you're with me. Amy, you. Stay here and keep the ship ready. If something goes wrong, take off immediately." "Sir, I should come with you," Amy said. "No. Someone needs to get our report back to Earth. That someone is you." Jake, Lisa, and Ryan put on their environmental suits and walked to the airlock. The suits would protect them from poison or disease, but Jake had a feeling they wouldn't protect them from what they were about to see. The door opened, and they stepped out onto New Haven. The air was clean. The temperature was normal. Birds were singing in the trees near the landing pad. Everything looked perfect, except for the silence. A city of 500,000 people should have been noisy. This place was quiet as a grave. They walked toward the city center. Their boots made soft sounds on the empty streets. Cars were parked along the roads, but they were covered in dust. Some had their doors open, like people had gotten out quickly and never come back. "Look at this," Lisa said. She was standing next to a playground. The swings moved slowly in the wind. Toys were scattered on the ground. A small bike was lying on its side like a child had just dropped it and run away. Ryan was checking his scanner. "No radiation, no chemical weapons, no biological agents that I can detect." He looked confused. What happened to these people? They kept walking. Jake felt like they were being watched, but every time he looked around, he saw nothing. Just empty windows staring down at them like dead eyes. They reached the town square. In the center was a statue of the colony's founder, a woman named Helen Rodriguez. She had brought the first settlers to New Haven 23 years ago. Someone had left flowers at the base of the statue, but they were old and dead now. "Captain," Lisa called out. She was standing near a cafe. The outdoor tables still had cups and plates on them, like people had been eating lunch and then just vanished. Jake walked over to her. On one table, there was a child's drawing. It showed a family standing in front of a house, a man, a woman, and 2 little kids. At the bottom, someone had written, "My family," in crayon. The paper was yellow and cracked from sitting in the sun for months. "Where are they?" Lisa whispered. Ryan was looking at his scanner again. "I'm picking up something. A large structure about 2 kilometers north of here. It's big enough to hold a lot of people." They walked through the empty streets toward the signal. Jake noticed that some of the buildings had burn marks on them, not from fires but from energy weapons. Someone had attacked this place. "Ryan, were there any distress calls from New Haven?" Jake asked. "No, sir. The last communication was a routine supply request 6 months ago. Everything seemed normal. That made it worse. If the colonists had been able to send a warning, it would mean they had a chance to fight. The silence meant something had happened too fast for them to call for help. They found the structure Ryan had detected. It was the colony's sports stadium. The building could hold 50,000 people for games and concerts. The parking lot around it was full of vehicles, but they were all covered in dust. The main entrance was open. Jake, Lisa, and Ryan walked inside. The smell hit them first. Even through their environmental suits, they could smell death. Old death. Lisa made a choking sound. "Oh no," Ryan whispered. "Oh no, no, no." The stadium was full of bodies, human bodies, thousands and thousands of them arranged in neat rows like they had been organized that way on purpose. Men, women, children, babies, all dead, all lying quietly in the place where they used to cheer for their local sports teams. Jake felt sick. Lisa was crying inside her helmet. Ryan, the tough military man who had seen 3 wars, was shaking. "They were herded here," Ryan said in a broken voice. "Look at the entrances. Scorch marks from energy weapons. Someone forced them all inside. And then—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Lisa was scanning the bodies with her medical equipment. "Jake, these people didn't die from weapons. They were poisoned, some kind of gas or biological agent. But look at their faces." Jake looked. He wished he hadn't. The dead colonists looked terrified. Their eyes were wide open, their mouths stretched in silent screams. Whatever had killed them, it had been slow and painful. "They were conscious when they died," Lisa said. "This poison was designed to keep them awake and aware while their bodies shut down. Someone wanted them to suffer." Ryan found something else. In one corner of the stadium, there were cameras, professional recording equipment, all pointed at the crowd of dead humans. "Captain, they filmed it. Whoever did this recorded everything." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. This wasn't war. War was soldiers fighting soldiers. This was murder, the murder of an entire world of innocent people. They searched the rest of the colony over the next 3 days. Every building, every street, every home. The story was always the same. The colonists had been forced from their homes by energy, weapons. Families had been separated, children had been taken from their parents. Everyone had been herded to different locations around the planet. The schools were the worst. Whoever had attacked New Haven had targeted the children first. They had used them as bait to force the adults to surrender. Lisa found evidence that the children had been tortured in front of their parents before everyone was killed. By the end of the 3rd day, they had counted 2,300,000 bodies. Every single human on New Haven was dead. Not one survivor. Not even the family pets had been spared. Jake made his final report while standing in the empty colony center. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the research vessel Meridian. New Haven. Colony has been completely destroyed. All 2.3 million colonists are dead. This was not an accident or a disease. This was genocide." He looked around at the empty buildings one more time. "Based on the evidence we've collected, this attack was carried out by an organized military force using advanced weapons. The victims were tortured and killed slowly on purpose. The attackers recorded everything they did." Jake paused. His hands were shaking with rage. "Command, whoever did this wanted us to find these bodies. They wanted us to see what they did to our people. They left New Haven as a message for humanity. I think we need to send a message back." The Meridian left New Haven's orbit 12 hours later, carrying the most important cargo in human history. Video evidence, DNA samples, and the testimony of 3 people who had seen what remained of a murdered world. Jake knew that once this evidence reached Earth, everything would change. Humanity had always tried to be the good guys in the galaxy. They had been diplomatic, reasonable, civilized. That was about to end. The message from the Meridian reached Earth 3 weeks later. President Helen Warren was having breakfast with her family when the emergency alert came through on her personal communicator. She read the first line and nearly dropped her coffee cup. "All colonists dead. Evidence of systematic genocide, requesting immediate emergency session." Within 6 hours, representatives from every human colony in the galaxy were connected through quantum communication links. The Colonial Council chamber in Geneva was packed with people. while holographic projections showed delegates from Mars, Europa, the Centauri colonies, and dozens of other worlds. President Warren looked tired. She had not slept since receiving Jake Morrison's report. Before we begin, I need to warn everyone. What you are about to see will change you. Once you watch this evidence, there is no going back to who we were yesterday. The lights dimmed. The main screen showed Captain Morrison standing in the empty sports stadium on New Haven. Behind him were thousands of human bodies arranged in perfect rows. The camera moved slowly across the scene, showing children clutching toys, parents holding babies, grandparents who had died trying to protect their families. Dr. Lisa Carter's voice played over the images. The poison used was designed specifically for human biology. It attacks the nervous system but keeps the victim conscious. Death takes between 10 and 15 minutes. The victims feel everything. Several delegates left the room. Others were crying. Senator Bill Martinez from the Mars colonies was physically sick. He had visited New Haven 2 years ago and had played with children who were now lying dead in that stadium. The recording continued. It showed the schools where children had been separated from their parents. It showed the hospitals where sick patients had been dragged from their beds. It showed the recorded equipment the attackers had used to film everything they did. When the presentation ended, the chamber was silent for a long time. President Warren looked around the room at faces filled with shock, grief, and growing anger. Admiral Peter Hayes was the first to speak. He was in charge of humanity's defense forces, and he had fought against pirates and raiders for 20 years. But he had never seen anything like this. "We've identified the attackers," he said in a voice that shook with rage. "They're called the Zephyrian Empire, a military confederation that controls about 40 star systems." He activated a new display showing alien creatures that looked like large insects walking on 2 legs. They had 4 arms, compound eyes, and sharp mandibles that could cut through metal. These are Zephyrians. They've been expanding their territory for the past 50 years by conquering weaker species. Admiral Hayes continued. "Our intelligence shows that New Haven was a test. They wanted to see how humans would react to a direct attack on civilians. They've been studying our response times, our military capabilities, our diplomatic protocols. They're planning similar attacks on 12 more human colonies." Dr. Amanda Ross, the Council's expert on alien biology, stood up. She was holding a datapad that contained intercepted Zephyrian communications. "It's worse than that. We've broken their communication codes. They don't see us as an enemy to fight. They see us as animals to be hunted." She read from the translated messages. "In their military reports, they call humans soft meat. They've been sharing information about our colonies with other hostile alien species, encouraging them to attack us. To them, we're just prey that happens to build cities." The anger in the room was growing. Delegate after delegate stood up to demand action. Senator Kate Phillips from the Outer Rim colonies was young, only 32 years old, but she had a reputation for speaking her mind. "I've been listening to everyone talk about military responses and diplomatic solutions," she said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "But nobody has mentioned the most important thing. Those people on New Haven were not soldiers. They were not politicians, they were families, children, babies who never hurt anyone." She activated her own display. "I have the names of every person who died on New Haven, all 2,300,000 of them. I want to read some of them to you." Billy Carson, age 7, loved dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist. Maria Santos, age 4, had just learned to write her own name. John and Linda Peterson, married for 43 years, grandparents to 8 children who died with them in that stadium. Kate's voice grew stronger as she continued. "The Zephyrians recorded those children dying. They filmed parents watching their babies being murdered. They did it slowly, on purpose because they enjoyed it, and now they're planning to do it again to 12 more worlds." She looked around the room at the other delegates. "So, I have a question for everyone here. What are we going to do about it?" Senator Martinez spoke up. "We need to strengthen our defenses, build more ships, train more soldiers, protect our colonies better. That's not enough, Kate replied. Defense means we sit and wait for them to attack us again. Defense means more dead children while we try to be civilized. Dr. Ross nodded. The girl is right. We've been trying to follow galactic law to be good neighbors in space. But the Zephyrians don't care about law. They see our civility as weakness. Admiral Hayes activated another display showing Zephyrian military positions. If we wanted to strike back, we could hit their border worlds, take out their military bases, cripple their fleet. No, Kate said firmly. That's not what I'm talking about. They didn't attack our military, they didn't attack our government, they attacked our families. They murdered our children for entertainment. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what she was suggesting, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. President Warren finally spoke. What exactly are you proposing, Senator Phillips? Kate stood up straighter. I'm proposing that we do to them exactly what they did to us. All of it. Every single thing they did to those children on New Haven, we do to their children. Every method they used to torture our families, we use on their families. We show them that humans can learn. The chamber erupted. Half the delegates were shouting in support. The other half were shouting in outrage. President Warren had to call for order 3 times before people settled down. Senator Phillips, said Dr. James Turner from the Ethics Committee, what you're describing is genocide. We would be no better than them. No, Kate replied. We would be exactly like them. And maybe that's what we need to be to survive in this galaxy. Admiral Hayes looked grim. If we abandon the Geneva Conventions, if we throw out the Colonial Ethics Accords, there's no going back. Once we cross that line, we become something different. Good, Kate said, because what we are now gets our children murdered while we debate proper military procedures. President Warren called for a recess. The delegates broke into small groups, arguing in low voices. Some were crying, others were angry. A few looked scared, but not of the Zephyrians. They were scared of what humanity might become. When the session resumed, President Warren asked for a formal vote. The motion is to suspend all treaties and conventions limiting human warfare, to authorize unlimited military action against the Zephyrian Empire and any species that support them, to declare total war. The vote took 3 hours. One by one, each delegate stated their position. Mars voted yes. Europa voted yes. The Centauri colonies voted yes. The Outer Rim systems voted yes. When it was over, the result was unanimous. 47, human worlds representing 6 billion people, had voted to abandon every rule that had limited human warfare for the past 200 years. President Warren signed the Terran War Resolution with a single pen stroke. The document was simple. It contained only one operational paragraph. Humanity will respond to the genocide of New Haven colonists with all available force, using any and all methods necessary to ensure the complete destruction of the Zephyrian Empire and any species that threaten human civilians. Below that, President Warren wrote a personal note that would become famous throughout human space. They wanted to teach us our place in the galaxy. They wanted to show us what happens to weak species. Message received, lesson learned. As the IK delegates disconnected from the quantum link, Admiral Hayes remained behind. Madam President, once we begin this, there's no stopping it. We're about to become something the galaxy has never seen before. President Warren looked out the window, at Earth's blue sky. Somewhere out there, 12 more human colonies were marked for destruction by aliens who thought humans were soft meat. Good. Maybe it's time the galaxy learned to be afraid of something new. Within hours, mobilization orders went out to every human military unit in space. The largest military buildup in human history began immediately. But this would not be an army built to follow the old rules of war. This would be an army built to win, no matter the cost. 2 years after New Haven, Admiral Beth Crawford stood on the bridge of the supercarrier Nemesis, watching the homeworld of the Zephyrian Empire grow larger on the main screen. Zephyr Prime was a massive planet with 8 billion inhabitants. It was the heart of the alien empire that had murdered human children. Today, it was going to die. Admiral, all fleet units are in position, reported Captain Roger Stone, her tactical officer. Around Zephyr Prime, 300 human warships waited in perfect formation. It was the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. Beth looked at the planet through the view screen. From space it looked beautiful. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. It reminded her of Earth. But she felt no sympathy for the billions of aliens living down there. "Commander Lewis, begin Phase 1, she ordered. Anna Lewis activated the planet-wide communication system. What started broadcasting was not a military message or a demand for surrender. It was a documentary. A complete recording of what the Zephyrians had done to New Haven, from the first attack to the last dying scream of the last human child. But this was not just being broadcast to Zephyr Prime. The human fleet was transmitting it to every planet in the galaxy. Every alien species, every government, every military force would watch what the Zephyrians had done. And they would watch what humans were about to do in response. "Sir, we're getting thousands of incoming messages from the planet," reported Communications Officer Lisa Rodriguez. "They're begging us to stop the broadcast." "Let them beg," Beth replied. "Our children begged too." On the planet below, 8 billion Zephyrians were being forced to watch the footage of New Haven. They saw human families being torn apart. They watched children being separated from their parents. They heard the screams of babies dying in gas chambers while Zephyrian soldiers laughed and recorded everything. The human fleet had spent 2 years preparing for this moment. They had studied every detail of Zephyrian civilization. They knew where the aliens kept their sacred sites, their cultural monuments, their most important historical locations. They knew which cities held the most civilians, which buildings contained the most children. "Admiral, the planetary defense fleet is approaching," Captain Stone reported. 200 ships, heavily armed. Beth smiled coldly. "Colonel Martinez, you may begin your demonstration." Colonel Steve Martinez commanded the Scorched Earth Division, a new branch of the human military that specialized in destroying entire worlds. His ships carried weapons that had never been used in galactic warfare before. "Releasing atmospheric toxins now," Steve reported from his command ship destroyer. The first weapons were not aimed at military targets. They were designed to kill the planet's agriculture. Designer plagues that would attack every food crop the Zephyrians grew, rendering them inedible. Within weeks, the planet would face mass starvation. "Phase 1 deployment complete," Steve continued, "beginning atmospheric modification." The second wave of weapons changed the planet's air itself, chemical compounds that would make the atmosphere toxic to Zephyrian lungs, but harmless to humans. The aliens would be forced to wear breathing equipment just to survive on their own world. "Admiral, the defense fleet is trying to engage us," Captain Stone said. "Ignore them for now. Continue the demonstration." The third wave targeted the planet's infrastructure. Not military bases or government buildings, but hospitals and schools. Places where Zephyrian children learned and played and received medical care. The same kinds of places the aliens had deliberately targeted on New Haven. "Sir, we're getting a priority communication from the planet," Lisa reported. "It's from the Zephyrian High Command." "Put them through." The main screen showed a group of high-ranking Zephyrian military officers in what looked like an underground bunker. Their compound eyes were wide with fear, their mandibles clicking nervously. "Human Commander, this is Supreme General Kickstar of the Zephyrian Empire. We demand that you cease this unprovoked attack immediately." Beth laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "Unprovoked? You murdered 2 million human civilians, including 340,000 children. How exactly was that provoked?" "That was a standard military operation against an illegal colony. We followed proper military protocols. And now we're following our new military protocols. The ones you taught us when you showed us that mercy is weakness." The alien general's voice became desperate. "We are willing to negotiate. We can offer reparations, territorial concessions, even the surrender of those responsible for the New Haven operation." "Surrender?" Beth shook her head. "General, you seem to misunderstand our purpose here. We're not here to accept your surrender. We're here to make sure you never hurt another human child. What do you want from us?" Beth's expression became ice cold. "Nothing. We don't want anything from you. We want you to stop existing. She cut off the communication and turned to her weapons officer. Commander Park, begin targeting civilian population centers. Julie Park had been a teacher before the war. She had worked with children on Mars, helping them learn about art and music. The footage from New Haven had changed her. Now she operated weapons designed to kill millions of people at once. Targets locked, Admiral. Beginning systematic bombardment of major cities. The human fleet opened fire on Zephyr Prime with weapons that had been specifically designed to cause maximum suffering. Energy beams that would vaporize buildings but leave the inhabitants burned and dying. Kinetic bombardment that would collapse structures slowly, trapping families inside to die of thirst and starvation. Admiral, we're receiving communications from other alien governments, Lisa reported. The Galactic Council is demanding that we stop the attack. Put them through. The screen showed Ambassador Trellix of the Astari Confederation, one of the oldest alien civilizations in the galaxy. The Astari looked like tall, thin humanoids with blue skin and large eyes. They had been mediating galactic conflicts for thousands of years. Admiral Crawford, I am Ambassador Trellix. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I order you to cease your attack on Zephyr Prime immediately. Beth looked at the alien diplomat with contempt. Ambassador, where was the Galactic Council when the Zephyrians were murdering human children? Where were your peace negotiations when they were filming babies dying for entertainment? The Council was not aware of the full extent of the New Haven incident. If we had known, we would have intervened. You knew, you all knew. You just didn't care because it was only humans dying. The ambassador's large eyes blinked slowly. Admiral, if you continue this attack, you will be violating every treaty on interstellar warfare. You will be no better than the Zephyrians. Beth smiled that cold human smile that had become famous throughout the galaxy. Ambassador, we're not trying to be better than the Zephyrians. We're trying to be exactly like them. They taught us that in this galaxy, the only species that survive are the ones willing to commit genocide. The Council will not allow this to continue. We will send military forces to stop you. You're welcome to try. But first, let me show you what happens to species that threaten human civilians. Beth nodded to Colonel Martinez. Steve, demonstrate the planet killer. Steve Martinez had been developing new weapons for 2 years. His latest creation was something no alien species had ever seen before. It was a device that could destabilize a planet's core, causing massive earthquakes and volcanic eruptions that would kill everything on the surface. Admiral, I strongly recommend that we don't use the planet killer. Dr. Kevin Sharp spoke up from his science station. If we destroy Zephyr Prime completely, we'll be killing 8 billion sentient beings. Beth looked at the doctor with empty eyes. They killed our sentient beings first. They filmed our children dying and called it entertainment. How many alien children do you think are worth one human child, Doctor? Dr. Sharp said nothing. He had asked himself that question every day for 2 years, and he still didn't have an answer. Deploy the planet killer, Beth ordered. The weapon launched from the Nemesis toward Zephyr Prime. It was a small device, no bigger than a shuttle, but it carried enough destructive power to crack a world in half. Admiral, massive seismic activity detected on the planet's surface, reported Sensor Officer Mark Thompson. Magnitude 9.0 earthquakes across all continents, volcanic activity increasing exponentially. On the main screen, they could see the planet beginning to tear itself apart. Massive cracks appeared in the continents. Oceans boiled as underwater volcanoes erupted. Cities collapsed as the ground beneath them shook apart. Ambassador Trellix was still on the communication channel watching in horror. You're destroying an entire world. Billions of innocent people are dying. They weren't innocent, Beth replied. They cheered when our children died. They celebrated the New Haven massacre as a victory. Every single one of them supported the genocide of humans. The children on that planet had nothing to do with New Haven. Beth's voice became deadly quiet. Neither did the children on New Haven. That didn't stop your Zephyrian friends from gassing them. The planet below them was dying. Continents were splitting apart, oceans were draining into massive chasms, and the atmosphere was being torn away by gravitational forces. 8 billion aliens were experiencing the same terror that 2 million humans had felt on New Haven. Admiral, we're getting emergency tea. 5 years after New Haven, the last Zephyrian world prepared to die. Admiral Ross Baker stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution, looking down at a small mining colony that held 200,000 of the last aliens in their species. The Zephyrian Empire was gone. 47 worlds had been destroyed. Billions of aliens had died screaming humanity's name. Only this one forgotten mining planet remained, and even that would not last much longer. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface," reported Lieutenant Carl Davis. "It's from the surviving Zephyrian leadership." "Put them through." The screen showed 3 Zephyrian officials standing in what looked like a makeshift shelter. They were thin and weak, their compound eyes dim with exhaustion. These were the last representatives of a species that had once controlled 40 star systems. "Human Commander, this is Administrator Velcris. We wish to discuss terms of surrender." Ross looked at the aliens with the same cold expression that had become standard for human military officers. "There are no terms. There is no surrender. You taught us that when you murdered our children. We are prepared to offer complete reparations for the New Haven incident. We will dismantle all military forces, abandon all territorial claims, and submit to human authority." Too late for that. The alien's mandibles clicked desperately. "Commander, we represent the last 200,000 members of our species. Most of them are civilians. Many are children who had nothing to do with New Haven." Ross felt nothing. 5 years of war had burned all sympathy out of him. "Your children will die the same way our children died. Slowly, in terror, while their parents watch. Please, we're begging for mercy." "Did you show mercy to the babies on New Haven? Did you listen when human parents begged for their children's lives?" The transmission cut off. Ross turned to his communications officer. "Lieutenant Park, open a channel to all galactic frequencies. It's time for humanity's final message." Julie Park activated the communication system. Across the galaxy, every alien government, every space station, every ship would receive what came next. "This is Admiral Ross Baker of the Human Colonial Fleet. I am broadcasting from orbit around the last Zephyrian world. In approximately 1 hour, this planet and every alien on it will be destroyed, completing the extinction of the Zephyrian species." Ross paused, looking directly into the camera. "But before we finish what the Zephyrians started, I want to tell you a story. It's about a 17-year-old human girl named Captain Julie Adams." The screen changed to show a young woman in a human military uniform. Julie Adams was thin and scarred, with dead eyes that had seen too much. She was the sole survivor found in the ruins of New Haven's Children's Hospital. 5 years ago, Julie was a normal teenager. Ross continued. She lived with her parents and little brother on New Haven. She wanted to be a teacher. She loved music and art and helping other people. Julie Adams stepped forward to speak. Her voice was calm and empty. "My name is Julie Adams. I was 17 when the Zephyrians came to New Haven. They separated me from my family on the first day. I watched them torture my parents to death. I watched them kill my 8-year-old brother slowly, while they filmed everything." She held up a small device. "This contains the complete recording of what the Zephyrians did to my family. Every scream, every plea for mercy, every moment of suffering. They made me watch all of it before they left me to die in the ruins." Julie's expression never changed as she continued. "For 5 years I have carried this recording with me. I have watched it every day so I would never forget what they did. Today I'm going to watch something different." The screen switched back to Admiral Baker. "The last Zephyrian world is about to experience exactly what New Haven experienced. Every method they used on our children, we will use on their children. Every moment of terror they inflicted on human families, their families will experience." Ross nodded to his weapons officer. "Commander Thompson, begin the final operation." Mark Thompson had been a gentleman before the war. He had studied alien cultures and believed in peaceful coexistence between species. Now he operated weapons designed To torture entire populations to death. Deploying biological agents, Mark reported. The same compounds they used on New Haven, modified for Zephyrian physiology. On the planet below, the poison began its work. But this was not a quick death. The aliens would remain conscious and aware as their bodies slowly shut down over the next 10 to 15 minutes, just like the human children had. "Sir, we're detecting panic on the planet's surface," reported Sensor Officer Lisa Martinez. "Massive crowds trying to reach shelter, but there is no shelter from what we're using." Good. Fear is what they deserve. The broadcast continued across the galaxy as 200,000 Zephyrians died in the exact same terror their species had inflicted on humans. Every alien government watched. Every military leader took notes. Every diplomat understood the message humanity was sending. When it was over, Julie Adams spoke again. "The Zephyrian species is now extinct. Every last one of them is dead. They will never hurt another human child." She looked directly into the camera with those dead eyes. "To any other alien species watching this broadcast, remember what you have seen here today. This is what happens when you harm human civilians. This is what happens when you think humans are weak." Admiral Baker took over the broadcast. "The Terran exclusion zone is now in effect. Any alien ship that enters human space will be destroyed without warning. Any alien government that threatens human colonies will share the Zephyrians' fate." The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, alien governments were already implementing emergency measures. The Veltar Union began destroying their own military installations to avoid looking threatening to humans. The Quellian Empire started evacuating star systems near human space. Ross made his final log entry as the fleet prepared to return to human space. "The Zephyrian species has been completely eliminated. Total casualties approximately 12 billion aliens across 48 worlds. The threat to human civilians has been permanently removed." He paused, thinking about the 5 years of war that had brought them to this moment. Mission accomplished. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind an empty star system where the last Zephyrians had died. Within hours, automated beacons were deployed around the dead planet, broadcasting a simple message in every known alien language. "Here died the last of a species that killed human children. Let their fate be a lesson to others." 1 year later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the Memorial Garden on New Haven. The planet had been rebuilt, but the graves remained. 2,300,000 markers, each one representing a human life stolen by alien hatred. A young lieutenant named Kevin Sharp approached him. Kevin was new to the service, born after the war ended. He had never known the old humanity, the one that tried to be diplomatic and civilized. "Admiral, can I ask you something?" Kevin said quietly. "Go ahead. Did we go too far? Did we become the monsters we were fighting?" Jake looked out over the endless rows of graves. Each one marked a child, a parent, a grandparent who had been murdered for the crime of being human. "Lieutenant, the Zephyrians taught us that mercy is weakness. They showed us that in this galaxy, civilized species get their children murdered while they debate the proper response. They demonstrated that the only law that matters is the law of the strong." Jake turned to face the young officer. "We learned their lesson perfectly. We became stronger than them. We became more ruthless than them. We became exactly what they taught us to be. But, sir, we killed 12 billion sentient beings, entire worlds of civilians. And they killed our civilians. First, they started this war when they decided human children were acceptable targets." Kevin looked confused. "So you think we did the right thing?" Jake smiled, but it was the same cold expression that had become famous throughout human space. "I think we did the necessary thing. The galaxy is safer now, not because we're the good guys, but because every other species knows what happens when they're not." He pointed to the graves around them. "These people can rest in peace now, Lieutenant. No alien will ever again look at human children and see easy targets. They'll remember the Zephyrians, and they'll choose to look somewhere else." In the years that followed, the galaxy settled into an uneasy peace. Alien species traded with humans. Through automated systems, careful never to send ships into human space. No alien diplomat requested face-to-face meetings with human representatives. The Terran exclusion zone remained empty except for automated warning beacons. Any alien ship that crossed the boundary was destroyed instantly, without communication or negotiation. Humanity had taught the galaxy a simple lesson: leave human civilians alone or become extinct. It was a lesson no species ever forgot. In the end, the Zephyrians had been right about one thing. In the galaxy, only the strong survived. They had just been wrong about which species was stronger. Humanity had learned to be the thing that went bump in the night for an entire galaxy, and they were very, very good at it. 6 months after the vote, Captain Danny Foster stood on the bridge of the stealth destroyer Wraith. Around him, 36 other human warships moved through space like silent predators. They were approaching Kronos Prime, a Zephyrian military base that controlled 3 star systems. This was Operation Payback, humanity's first response to New Haven. But it was not going to be like any military operation humans had ever conducted before. "Sir, we're in position," reported Lieutenant Ben Harris from the navigation station. "All ships are ready." Danny looked at the tactical display. The Zephyrian base below them housed 200,000 military personnel and their families. It was a fortress that had never been attacked in 50 years of Zephyrian expansion. "Commander White, begin the broadcast," Danny ordered. Sarah White activated the communication system. What came out of the speakers was not a military message or a demand for surrender. It was the sound of children screaming. The dying screams of human children from New Haven, translated into the Zephyrian language and played at frequencies that would cause maximum psychological impact on alien minds. "Sir, we're getting response signals from the base," reported Communications Officer Tim Brooks. "They're trying to block our transmission. Override their systems. I want every Zephyrian on that base to hear what they did to our children." Human fleet had spent months studying Zephyrian psychology. Dr. Neil Parker, the expedition's xenobiologist, had abandoned his old research ethics to focus on one question: how do you break an alien mind? "Captain, the base commander is trying to contact us," Tim said. "Put him through." The main screen showed a large, insect-like creature with compound eyes and clicking mandibles. General Vextar was the commanding officer of Kronos Prime. He had personally planned the attack on New Haven. "Human vessel, you are violating Zephyrian space," the alien spoke through a translator. "Withdraw immediately or face military action." Danny smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "General Vextar, we know who you are. We know what you did on New Haven. We have video recordings of you personally ordering the murder of human children." The alien's mandibles clicked nervously. That was a legitimate military operation against an illegal human colony. "Illegal?" Danny laughed. 2 million colonists, including 340,000 children under the age of 16. You herded them into sports stadiums and gassed them while recording their deaths for entertainment. You call that military? "The Geneva Conventions require that we accept your surrender if you wish to lay down arms," the alien said, clearly confused by human behavior. Danny's smile disappeared. "General, you seem to be confused about something important. We're not following the Geneva Conventions anymore. You taught us they were a sign of weakness. We learned your lesson." The transmission cut off. Danny turned to his weapons officer. "Lieutenant Clark, target their defensive systems, but don't destroy them quickly. I want them to watch their base die piece by piece." Amy Clark had been a peaceful person before New Haven. She had joined the military to protect colonies, not to hurt anyone. But 6 months of looking at pictures of dead human children had changed her. "Weapons locked on target, sir. Beginning systematic destruction." The first shots were not aimed at critical systems. They hit the base's recreational areas, the places where Zephyrian families lived and played. The aliens had built their military base like a small city, with schools and parks for their children. "Sir, they're trying to evacuate non-combatants," reported sensor operator Mike Davis. "Jam their evacuation signals. No one leaves." Dr. Parker spoke up from his station. Captain, I'm releasing the biological agents now. What Dr. Parker had created violated every treaty on biological warfare that humans had ever signed. It was a designer virus, built specifically to attack Zephyrian nervous systems. But unlike the poison the aliens had used on New Haven, this one had a special feature. The infected Zephyrians would not die. Instead, they would become violently insane and attack other members of their own species. The virus would spread through the base like wildfire, turning the aliens into weapons against each other. First-stage infection confirmed, Dr. Parker reported. The base's medical facilities are being overwhelmed. They're trying to quarantine infected areas, but it's too late. Through the ship's sensors, they could watch the chaos below. Zephyrian soldiers were turning on their own commanders. Families were destroying each other in fits of rage they could not control. The base's neat military order was collapsing into madness. Sir, General Vextar is trying to contact us again, Tim said. Put him through. The alien general looked terrified. Behind him, Danny could see smoke and flashing emergency lights. Human, Captain, we surrender. We will lay down our weapons and submit to your authority according to galactic warfare conventions. There are no conventions anymore, General. You destroyed them when you murdered our children. We followed standard military procedure. Colonial populations are legitimate targets under Zephyrian law. Danny stood up from his command chair. And now you're a legitimate target under human law. Our new law. The law that says anyone who hurts human children dies slowly. This is war crimes, the alien protested. The Galactic Council will intervene. Let them try. Danny nodded to Amy Clark. Begin Stage 2. The second wave of attacks used sonic weapons tuned specifically to Zephyrian hearing. The sounds would not kill the aliens, but they would cause permanent damage to their brains. Those who survived would spend the rest of their lives in constant pain, unable to think clearly or care for themselves. Captain, we're detecting massive system failures throughout the base, Mike reported. Their command structure is completely gone. Military units are fighting each other. Excellent. Dr. Parker, release Stage 3. Stage 3 was the worst. Nanite swarms that would consume Zephyrian armor and weapons, then begin eating the aliens themselves. The tiny machines were programmed to keep their victims alive and conscious as long as possible, while slowly dissolving their bodies. General Vextar appeared on screen one final time. Half of his face was gone, eaten away by nanites. One of his compound eyes was dark. Why? He whispered through the translator. Why are you doing this to us? Danny looked at the dying alien with no emotion. Because you showed our children no mercy, we learned from your example. We were following orders. We didn't know humans would respond like this. Now you know. Make sure you tell the other survivors about what you learned here. What survivors? The alien asked. Danny smiled that cold smile again. Exactly. The attack on Kronos Prime lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the base was a ruin. 200,000 Zephyrians were dead, but not quickly. Each one had died in terror and pain, just like the children of New Haven. The human fleet documented everything. Every scream, every plea for mercy, every moment of alien suffering was recorded in high definition, just as the Zephyrians had recorded the deaths of human families. Sir, we're receiving a priority message from Admiral Hayes, Tim reported. Danny accepted the communication. Admiral Hayes appeared on screen looking grim but satisfied. Captain Foster, how did Operation Payback proceed? Mission accomplished, Admiral. Kronos Prime is no longer operational. No survivors. Good. We're sending the recordings to every Zephyrian military installation in their empire. We want them to know what happens when they hurt humans. What are our next orders, sir? Admiral Hayes smiled, and it was the same cold expression Danny had shown the dying alien general. We have a list of 47 Zephyrian military targets. Each one was involved in planning or supporting the New Haven massacre. We're going to visit every single one of them. Sir, that's going to take years. We have time, Captain, and they have something to learn about humanity. The Wraith and her sister ships left the ruins of Kronos Prime behind them, As they jumped to hyperspace, they transmitted one final message to the Zephyrian Empire. It was not in words. It was a single image. A human child's drawing from New Haven, showing a happy family. Below the drawing, someone had written a new message in Zephyrian script. You killed our children. Now we kill yours. This is what justice looks like. Within days, the recording of Kronos Prime's destruction was spreading through alien communication networks across the galaxy. Other species watched in horror as humans systematically tortured an entire military base to death. The message was clear. Humanity had abandoned every rule that had limited their capacity for violence. They had become something new, something that other species had never encountered before. They had become the thing that monsters checked for under their beds. Dr. Parker uploaded his final report as the fleet prepared for their next target. Biological and technological weapons performed beyond expectations. Zephyrian psychology responds predictably to fear-based stimuli. Recommend expanding research into pain maximization techniques for future operations. He paused before adding a personal note. I used to believe that science should help people. Now I understand that sometimes science needs to hurt the right people. The children of New Haven can rest a little easier tonight. Captain Danny Foster made his own log entry as the Wraith jumped toward their next target. Operation Payback was a complete success. The enemy has learned that attacking human civilians comes with a price. We will continue to call